Hello, this is Christian Toth with Coach.Motorworks. Thanks again for coming and checking out my channel and my episode here. So, it is hotter than hell out here. It is 90-something degrees here in, outside of Baltimore. Happy belated 4th of July. So, let's dive right in and see what we got here. I got some more parts that came in and some more that I'll be putting on tomorrow. Let's see what we have going on here. So, I'm going to try to tackle this weekend is my cooling system. So, radiator's in, as you can see. I'm hoping that my brackets for my power steering and my alternator have come in. Looks like they actually got delivered to my house in Baltimore, in the city, as opposed to here at my shop. So, I guess I'll be doing that tomorrow. But for today, let's at least get some of my hoses going. This is my upper radiator hose that I got from Napa. Go ahead and that fits pretty good. Get my clamps on here, and let's tighten those suckers down. Alright, upper radiator hose on, looks good. Nice new fresh rubber. So something else I've got. Alright, so this is all, also I'm going to be putting on here is an electric fan. It's going to help keep the engine cool. Oh yeah, as well as I got my fuel filter that I'll put on there. There we go. See how this fits. Huh. Alright, the distance here between my pulley and my radiator is pretty narrow. And it's bigger than my fan, so I can either try to find a skinnier fan, which is possible, or I can look for, or I can try to mount it up in front here. So my distance between the pulley and probably the front of that shaft and the radiator looks to be about 2.5 inches. Alright, and from 2.5 inches basically, just the shroud to the top of this crown without the motor. So, unfortunately, I don't think that's going to work. But and I don't think my distance is any different there. So, what I think, I have another fan at home. I'm going to try, see if that's any skinnier. Otherwise, at least I know my dimension now. Other option is I could do a mechanical fan, like every other car. Or I might hit up a junkyard tomorrow and just start hunting around some cars and see if I can find a narrow one. In the meantime, I can get my fuel filter put on here. And this is going to go, there's my fuel line right there. So I need to go from there to the fuel pump with this extra hosing that I've got right here. And just as a good measure, you always want to put your fuel filter before your fuel pump, because you don't want to clog up the fuel pump. You rather clog up this little cheap $2 filter. So let's get that going. Alright, so there's my fuel filter, all plumbed up, new hosing and clamps right into my fuel pump. Alright, cool, so let's get that equalizer back on, clutch equalizer. Just been having it dry here. See how that fits. So here we are, filter in. Clutch equalizer is in and attached. And tried it out and works good. So let's actually open a box here. I think this is going to be something here that I was waiting for. From Summit. Alright, carburetor plate number 2. Alright, let's see how this fits. Alright, so the bowl holes are lined up. But it looks like I need to drill them out just a hair. So they are, you can see down there, they are lined up. And it looks like my throat is the correct size. I take my gasket. Just need to make these holes just a smidge bigger. So I think this is going to work out. I'll just drill out, so if it's going to be mounted like this, should not interfere. I don't think it, hopefully it won't, I don't think it's going to hit anything. Well, that's a big relief. Can actually get a decent carburetor on this 250 engine here. So that might leave us off for today, but it's hot. I'm going to go try to find a pool and get back with you tomorrow. Talk to you later. Well, again, this is Christian Toth with Coach Motorworks, day 2 of 4th of July weekend. So today I'm going to try to keep getting after the cooling system and hooking up my hoses. This is a hose for actually a Mustang, so you can see alignment and routing is correct. Only problem is the hose is the same diameter as my water pump. So what I'm going to try to do is grease that up and get that on. Besides that, I got an electric fan that we're going to try to hook up, and my brackets came in. Like I said, they were delivered to my house in the city, as opposed to at my shop. But should be fine. I got everything now, and let's see if things are starting to fit. Like I said, let's start with the cooling lines. Got the lower radiator hose connected to the lower part of the radiator. Upper hose we did yesterday. So let's see what the pulley looks like. Alright, so trying to find these brackets for the Ford Maverick alternator pulley, or alternator. Sorry. It's super hot today. It's like 100% humidity. And probably like 90 something degrees. So, hottest part of the summer. Okay, so I've gotten the alternator bracket and the power steering bracket from a 72 Ford Maverick. Couldn't find them anywhere. I tried to get them new and a bunch of parts and didn't really have much luck. So went on eBay, found a guy selling a bracket for the power steering. Sure enough, he was also selling the alternator bracket. So, and he was up in Dover, PA, not even that far. So I shot him a message and asked, hey, I see you're selling these 2 brackets. Any chance you have the pulley? Sure do. So he just threw it in with the package. Super nice of him. I was able to save on shipping. So we got here. It's a single ridge pulley, and I want to see if it fits on my power steering pump. Alright, so alright, there it goes. And it looks like it is lining up, which is good. So it is pretty tight. So I'm hoping that the outer ridge is the one that'll go to my power steering pump. That'll be independent versus this. That inside ridge will go over here where the alternator will be. So let's continue mocking up some of these brackets and see if they fit. I think he even included some of the bolts, which is super nice of him. Alright, so this is definitely a power steering bracket. Nothing in there. Alright, so these look like various bolts of the engine and the slide for the power steering pump. So, like I said, just hoping that they fit. Alright, like that. Cool. Okay, so let's see how we did here. So the bracket mounts up fine. Got the kicker down here that mounts the side of the engine down there. Looks like all the 3 bolts are on the power steering pump, which is awesome. But this is a problem. So I need to look. I think I might actually need to get a Ford Maverick line here. It looks like, although my right angles and stuff are pretty good, this just needs to angle down straight away. So this point comes out too far to where it's hitting that. So sucks I can't put coolant in it today, but at least I should be able to route, at least I should be able to clean up the brackets and get those mounted on and put the power steering pump in its place. But before I take it apart, let's go ahead and check that alternator bracket. I think I left this bolt loose because it's supposed to go like that. Otherwise, it can go on the lower one. Honestly, I just can't remember right now. Alright, so my 3 holes goes like this. Alright, so that's going to go right alongside like that. Let's grab some of those bolts that guy gave me. Alright, so I have the alternator mocked up in there with the bracket on. Current issue, I think, is you can see, looks like this pulley here is in further than my alternator. So what I think I should do, okay, so I can, let's just double check here. So the outer pulley looks like it's going to line up with my power steering pump. You can see down here with here. Looks like that's the right distance. So I'd have a belt dedicated solely for my power steering pump, and this second belt, the inside belt, would go from main pulley to my water pump pulley, and then over to my alternator. It doesn't look like it needs to go on far. What I'm thinking is, if I bracket down here, if I can shave a little bit on this side, and I can put basically whatever I cut off, and maybe probably put some washers up the front, basically to move this whole thing back a little bit. That should be what I need to do to get this all in line. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I was hoping not to have to take all the wires off, but maybe I'll just take a bunch of pictures. As it is, I have one wire here, but I'm not really sure what it goes to. Alright, so I trimmed some off of this side right here, and just put that piece I sliced off on this side as my washer. And actually, it looks like it's going to line up just fine. So if I throw my belt back on, alright, so might be hard to tell on the camera here, but I think that's going to work just fine. So I'm going to call that good. Time to take the brackets off, clean them up, throw some paint on them. Alright, so I got all the parts cleaned up pretty well. Wire brushed some of them. And yeah, so let's go ahead, throw some primer and paint on them. Alright, so while I wait for the parts to dry there, in between coats, I think this is I think this is what I was hoping for. Well, I'm not going to spoil it. Let's just see what it is. Sweet. Alright, so what I didn't tell you guys is, with putting that carburetor and double barrel carburetor on, putting a little more fuel through it, I think it's only right that we put a 2-pipe exhaust, or dual exhaust on here. So saving this. Yeah. Pretty nice, huh? Alright, so this should fit my engine, but, you know, as we found out before, just because it says it does doesn't mean it will. So I just have the other down bracket, and it's going to be my manual choke for when I get my carburetor. But yeah, so this is going to mount inside of the engine, and then I'll be able to do a dual exhaust system out. It's probably going to be kind of a mixture between a V8 Mustang exhaust and then probably some custom fabbing. But let's go ahead and see how this looks over on the car. Think it might fit? I'm going to get some studs and put those in there so we can get a better idea. Alright, let's give you guys a closer look here. Alright, so it does all looks like it fits in there. It's pretty tight. Looks freaking awesome. The only thing potentially I can see is some starter interference, but I'm going to loosely hook those down tubes on, see if they fit. Need a better angle for you guys. You can see it's pretty close. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Right now I do see that my accelerator is resting up against the exhaust there. But hook up those down tubes and see what we got. Alright, so it looks like the down pipes, these are going to need a little bit shorter of a bend right away, because I am brushing right up against the side of my starter, and the biggest issue with that is, besides, I don't really want anything touching the exhaust, but I'd be grounding out that positive terminal on my starter, which you definitely don't want to do. So for now I'm just going to go ahead and get this exhaust manifold tightened up, and probably have to, and I'll move the linkage, because I'll have to modify something. Alright, so after a couple of coats, looks like the parts are done here. And let's go ahead and start bolting them on the car here. Alright, so as you can see, the belt I have is too short. I guess if I would bring this in a lot more, then yeah, I could fit, but you can see it's hitting my exhaust, so looks like I'm going to need a longer belt. Alright, so while my power steering bracket is drying, so you might not be able to see me, I'm going to go ahead and put this fan in. So this is an electric fan. I actually looked for a bunch of ones on at the auto parts stores, and unfortunately they were all too thick. I only have about an inch, 2.5 inches between that pulley and my radiator. So and those fans were also like $100 and something bucks, which I wouldn't mind spending if it actually fit, but it didn't. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of slide this sucker in here, mount it, and then obviously I'll make sure I wire it up the correct way so that it blows air instead of sucks air. So I'm going to put some zip ties in through the ends there, and it has to be a little offset, and it should be good. It's a 12-inch fan, and it looks like the mechanical one is like a 13 or a 14-inch fan, which is a weird size because I thought the next size up would be 16. So I think this will work fine. I mean, worst case scenario, it does overheat, then we'll revisit this. But I think this is going to work for me. As you can see, I got my electric fan in here. I have a zip tied through, so you can see in here. So it's pretty secure. This is my electrical connection here. This is my controller. So this is a variable thermostat controller, so I can adjust how when I want it to click on, you know, from 180 to 220 maybe. I'll probably put it at its lowest setting at 180. So you can mount that on the firewall like so, somewhere like there. And then this is my temperature probe, so this needs to go on this side of the radiator, so I think I'm just going to drill a hole and put it in there. So let me go ahead and do that. Alright, so there's my hole in there, and I can put my probe in. You're not supposed to put the whole thing in, you're just supposed to put part of it in. So probably put like that much in, and as you can see, so I'm going to clean up the area around it, and I'm just going to solder this in there, just as if I was fixing the radiator. Alright, so let's do a little recap of today, or of this weekend. So radiator's in, top radiator hose is in, pulley is in, fan I've mounted. I got my belt for my power steering pump. Power steering pump is in, loose because I still need to take this off in order to put the other belt on for my alternator. Alternator is sitting on there. Thermostat is in there. Fuel filter's on. New fuel line to the existing line. Let's see. Oh, and the bling. Got my new exhaust manifold on there. That is going to sound sweet as long as I can get it routed around that alternator, or that starter down there. And I started messing with my fan control wires here and running those. And this week I'm going to try to tackle getting the correct 1-barrel to 2-barrel converter for my carburetor. So that's what I got for you this weekend. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Coach That Motorworks, and with myself, Christian Toth. If you have any questions or comments, likes, or whatever you want else, leave them down below. Let me know what you think. Again, appreciate you watching, and have a good week. Bye.